So there's all this attention being paid to the government shutdown. I'm gonna try not to be too political as far as being partisan, as far as placing blame on one party or the other. I'm tempted to do cough, party name cough, but I won't. You'll probably see, in fact you will see my biases come out over the course of this video, but it's not my intent. Instead, what I want to respond to is people's response to the government shutdown that I think is entirely misaimed. Here are things not to be mad about with the government shutdown that has lasted for over 2 weeks now. Don't be upset about national parks that you weren't going to visit anyway. It's a nice story with the World War II Museum Memorial, and for Yellowstone National Park and all this stuff that, oh, well, it's open air, why do they pay people to put up barricades? Because it's easier to pay people to put up barricades in front of a park than it is to pay people to clean up the park when kids go in and vandalize it. There was this big thing where some kid vandalized some, I don't remember, it was something last month where some kid vandalized something important. And, you know, that takes money to clean up, and supplies and people and such and so forth. So, at Yellowstone National Park isn't just on its own. As a park, people are paid and resources are put into it to keep it open to the public and to keep it beautiful and attractive and all that. Yes, it's a nice story when vets can't get into the memorial, but honestly, you weren't going to go there. Don't get outraged on other people's behalf. There are bigger fish to fry. Here's something else not to get upset about, and that's government websites that are down. Can you even see me? I don't know if you can see me, but that's where the phone is stable, so that's what I'm doing. Hands free, because hands on the wheel. Websites being down. I've had 2 friends, and if you're those friends and you're watching, I'm sorry. I've had 2 friends complain about the NASA site being down. And quite frankly, NASA is not something that is crucial to the security of the American people, and that is why. The United States Postal Service site is up. The Social Security site is up. NASA is not. I'm sure that the Park Service is not. NASA is what my friends are getting the attention to, but honestly, needing a stock photo of the moon is not as important as funding the government. Now, people are like, oh, well, why were these websites taken down? I mean, it doesn't take it. It's a website. You don't need to pay people to maintain it, which is wrong. It's not that the government paid hosting and it's all taken care of. The government hosts all of its own servers. Those are machines that need to be kept online that need to have 100% uptime. If you go to nasa.gov, you're going to find that it redirects to notice.usa.gov. All websites that are down redirect to this one website with a little bit of text and a small little image that is a lot friendlier on bandwidth than all of the stock photos and video on NASA alone, let alone any of the other sites that are down. Imagine taking your personal computer and leaving it on 24/7. I do that, and sometimes it gets a little grumpy. Now imagine millions of people trying to connect to that every day. It takes a team of people and of resources to keep a website up. That's why if you got a website, you would pay someone else for hosting. Everyone that I know that has hosted a website out of their own house has had 95% uptime if they're doing really well at it. And 5% downtime for a government website is inexcusable, so they take it down so they don't have to worry about that. Because once it goes down, if they're not paying anyone, it wouldn't go back up. So they preemptively put the redirect in there, the blah, 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 blah. So don't get angry about that. Because I would rather get some money for, I don't know, our troops, rather than sysadmin. I have a lot of friends who are server admins and blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, but you are not a priority where the government is concerned, and I think that's fine. Notes. So those are on my do not be mad list. On the do be mad list, it's people have been focusing on the wrong things and the hot button things that are easy to see and comprehend, but aren't that important. Here are things that you should be angry about. When this was happening last week, that the military death benefits, if a soldier falls in battle, then getting money to his family so that they can be there when his casket arrives and they can pay his funeral expenses, being able to pay for those. That originally was not something that was being paid out. A bill was passed, signed into law, that now that's getting paid, so that's taken care of. But that was something that you could have justifiably been PO'd about. If you are a federal worker, you have every right to be angry. If you have been furloughed, how do you pronounce that? I've got most of my news online, and I'll get to that in a minute. If you are not working right now, then you have every right to be annoyed at the situation. Yes, a bill was passed so that you will get your back pay when the government reopens. But right now we're on 2 weeks, and if you're living paycheck to paycheck, or just something comes up, you don't have the income right now to meet those needs. Yes, you'll get a nice chunk when the shutdown is finally resolved, which could be in as little as 2 days from now. Who knows? Things are up in the air. But if things do get resolved, then cool. If things don't get resolved, you're still looking at time without money. So if you or someone that you know, or if you're just sympathizing, by all means, be mad about that. I have a personal little beef. I got married 2.5 weeks ago, and I'm unable to change my name with Social Security because name change is not a crucial thing right now. That's not a huge thing. I mean, I'm hoping it doesn't affect my payroll. I'm still having my boss deposit my paychecks and do all the payroll under my old name. Once I get my driver's license, I'm going to change my bank to my new name, and things might get mixed up, but we'll see. So if it impacts you personally, then you have a right to be angry about it. And I have this problem with Americans in general. Getting offended on other people's behalf is something that a lot of Americans and Westerners do. So getting mad on other people's behalf, don't. If you personally are affected, then be mad. If you personally are not affected in the here and now, then pay attention to the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that our democracy has been subverted. The bigger picture is that there's a small group of people in the House of Representatives that have a specific goal in mind and will not budge until that goal is met. Even though the American people and most of the House of Representatives and most of the Senate and the President want to see, I'll say it. The Affordable Care Act got passed, signed into law in 2010, and this group of people want to get rid of it. It's a lost cause, but they are funding their entire attack based on that. And it's not even that the whole Republican Party, I'm sorry, didn't want to get partisan. It's not even that the whole Republican Party wants this. It's the Tea Party faction within the Republican Party that decided to go on this chain of attack for the government shutdown. The rest of the Republican Party has its goals of cutting deficit spending, that they were planning on putting pressure on the government system when it came to talks over the federal debt ceiling, the debt limit. And that is what you should be most concerned about, is not the government shutdown, where the government is spending a lot less money on stuff and isn't spending money on essential things, but on the federal debt limit, where the government runs out of money. Remember the whole thing with all the companies back in 2008 that were too big to fail and the government bailed them out? Who bails out the government? Like, the government, the United States government as a concept should literally be too big to fail. Its credit rating has dropped so bad recently. I swear I probably have a better credit rating than the federal government. That's an exaggeration, and it's not even measured on the same scale. But the point remains. The United States government should not be in a position where it cannot pay its debts. And it is. I'm gonna wait for that truck to go by. The fact that we are in this position, that my country is in this position, just boggles my mind, and that's what gets me upset, and that's what should get you upset if you're an American. If you're not an American, then the whole thing of getting upset on other people's behalf. one video that came to light recently, there's a clean bill in the House that would completely do everything that's needed to do. There's enough votes in the House, there's enough votes in the Senate, it would be approved by the President. But Speaker of the House, John Boehner, and the Tea Party conservatives don't want it passed, so they refuse to call it to a vote. And coming to light 3 days ago was a video put up by Representative Chris Van Hollen, highlighting the fact that the Rules Committee made a rule where the House cannot call to a vote something if the majority leader isn't the one to call it to a vote. Meaning that even though there's the votes to get this thing passed, nobody can call it to a vote. They are that intent on achieving their goals that they will let nobody else do what they can and work within the regular laws of the system to work on that goal. I'm not being as eloquent as I want to be, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of ranting here. This has been on my mind, the whole misdirected hate thing, and then just seeing this video that Representative Van Hollen put up is just... So I said what not to be angry about, I said what you can be angry about, or what you should be angry about. Now, here's what to do about it. Remember it. This is a huge thing, but it's not an election year. So many people are going to forget about this. I don't care what side of the spectrum that you're on. If you think that the Tea Party Republicans are to blame, if you think all Republicans are to blame, if you think all the Democrats in the Senate are to blame for not passing these modified bills, I personally think you're wrong, but you are entitled to your opinion. Keep this in mind for when the next elections come around. Seats in the House of Representatives are held for 6 years. Why do we have an elected representative that can do whatever he likes for 5 years before campaigning for his last year to keep his seat back? Six years boggles the mind when the President of the United States, the person who, I won't say is responsible for all of it because it's got the checks and balances, but the person who is at the head of every, of our country, when he's in for 4 years at a time, 6 years is IMO too long. But remember it next year as an election year. Remember it 2 years after that. Remember it 2 years after that. Write names down. Notice the people that are doing things that you don't like, and cast your vote. And look up everything that's pertaining to the situation. Don't just go to one news source. If you're only getting your news from CBS, find more news sources. If you're only getting your news from Huffington Post, find more news sources. If you're only getting your news from Fox News, get more news sources. If you're only getting your news from friends posting stuff on Facebook, please get more resources. Every day for the past week and a half, I've been going to Google News and reading at least 3 articles on the topic. Educate yourself in what is happening to our country so that you can better act on it when the power comes back to your hands in that voting booth. So, to sum it up, be mad about what is happening to our representative democracy, that we are in a position where we can't pay people. Remember what is happening now. Research it and remember it, and do something about it next voting season. I'm going to let Representative Chris Van Hollen lead me out on this one. Hopefully when I see you next week, things will be better and that we won't default on our debts 2 days from now. Fingers are crossed across the nation to those who are actually paying attention. and not just hearing this on a snarky news radio in the morning, or from bloggers. Fingers are crossed. Hopefully things are better next week. I'll see you with less apprehensiveness, and I'll let Representative Ben Hollens lead me out. Have a good week.
Mr. Speaker, why were the rules rigged to keep the government shut down?
The gentleman will suspend.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think
the chair will now entertain.
Democracy has been suspended.
The gentleman will suspend.